Hello and welcome. We are live on LinkedIn. Hope everyone is doing well. Tony and Scott, how's it going, you guys?
Going very well.
Going great, Kyler. Nice to see you again, live 2 days in a row, baby.
Yeah, we're getting the hang of this, eh?
Okay, so you know what? I'm just gonna share it onto my own personal profile. You guys can do the same, I guess. Um, let's see. So I'm just gonna take 2 seconds. Simply PHP is live, and I'm gonna share.
Welcome. We are live.
All right. So hey, Scott, while I'm doing this, tell us where you are geographically. Like I know where you are. Well, listen. Let me introduce you. So this is Scott. Scott He is one of Simply PHP's awesome remote resources. Who's all the way in British Columbia. So tell us, pretty much what little town you're in British Columbia. Tell us a little about the area you're in while I'm doing this sharing. PHP is live.
Yeah, for sure. I'm from the West Coast. Very, very proud being a member because the office is in Montreal, and I'm on the other side of the country. It's beautiful here. I live in Nanaimo, by the way. It's second biggest city on Vancouver Island. Victoria is nice, but Nanaimo is a good size for me.
Who's all the way.
And
so Nanaimo is on Vancouver Island, right?
yeah, we call it the Mid Island because it's in like the middle.
Kyler, you know what I'm gonna ask you?
I'm already queued up.
Yeah. Let's share your screen. Let's see if we can zoom in on. We're not gonna zoom in on your house, Scott. Don't worry. But I want to see where you are because that is like one of the most beautiful places in the world.
For sure, yeah.
So let's.
So here's a little map of where we are, all the way here. And here is Scott. I'm going to slowly drag.
So it's a 47-hour drive nonstop if we go from Montreal to Scott's house.
So here is Vancouver, and here's Scott, right in there.
If you guys can see Kyler's screen, because for me, I only see a map of Canada and the U.S. Well, I see a map of North America. So as long as it's working for you, that's fine.
The best part of it is the ferry trip. It's a nice 2 hours ferry to the island, and sometimes.
So it's a 2-hour ferry. So if you're in Vancouver, you get on the ferry in Vancouver, and it's a 2-hour ferry ride.
That's right. Yeah, you got to take the BC ferry, and if you're lucky on the ferry, you will see orcas and lots of wildlife. Orcas, seals.
Have you done the plane ride also?
You could, yeah.
Yeah. Have you done both?
I've done both. Yeah. Well, for my last job, I have to. There is an office in Vancouver. The headquarters is in Nanaimo, and I think every month I have to take a plane.
And what would you recommend if I was to come and visit you? Would you recommend that I take the ferry?
First time, I recommend taking the ferry, taking the slow ride.
Yeah. If I can see some whales and seals on the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Plane is for the life in the fast lane.
Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, Kyler, you can unshare if you don't mind because that's perfect because I wasn't really seeing anything anyway. So Scott, enough small talk. I know that in the past you were a freelancer and now you are a full-time employee of Simply PHP. And the reason that happened is, I won't say it's an advantage of COVID because there are no advantages of COVID, but it was kind of like an eye-opening event for us as a company that we could actually use remote resources that can work from anywhere. Our criteria used to be that you had to be in Montreal and you had to come to the office. Of course, that's all changed now. So right now our criteria is that you need to be in Canada, which is amazing. It's opened up the whole country to us, including yourself. You're an amazing developer. You're an amazing resource, great guy. So I wanted to know, um, my first question to you is, what advantages have you seen working full-time for a company as opposed to working independently as a freelancer?
The biggest thing for me is it gives me the focus to do the actual work.
Right?
When I was a freelancer, of course, I had to put myself out there. There's Upwork, there is many other freelance sites that you sign up for, and then you wait.
So you mean you
And
had to concentrate on sales? You had to do the business
quite a
development.
bit of it, yeah.
Yeah.
My most of my customers I ended up having the opportunity to work with was through a few connections,
Okay.
and I learned a lot of that too. It's it's difficult at first to get people to understand you what your technical background is, and to prove that you can take on a project.
So trust.
Yeah, to establish that trust.
It's true, and I can see that because when you're trying to find a freelancer, and sometimes you are trying to find a company, but you end up on these freelance sites as a business owner, and all of a sudden you're trying to navigate many different people, and how do you establish trust, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think this is something an agency and Simply PHP have a reputation for providing excellent developers.
Mhm.
There's decades of experience and history to prove that.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I've done freelance for 2 years. I have a few different projects that one is in the restaurant sector and the other one was in but they're all like small businesses.
Okay.
And but
Yeah.
for an agency, you guys have a way more diverse profile than my own work. And
Well, so a focus, that's a great point because a lot of times people call us and they're already convinced, right? For whatever reason.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a great point. So your focus now is much more acute because you're not worried about, oh, if I run out of work on this particular project, where's my next one going to come from? And a lot of times when your prospective clients want to speak to you, it's 9 to 5. So you have to kind of put your current project on the side type of thing and talk to them.
yeah. And most of the time I have to convince people, this is the problem that you need a great problem solver, and that's what I am. I like to dig into
Yeah.
the code, and whether that's fixing bugs or crack a few issue or finding the best way to do to write certain programs.
Hmm.
And it's I know the demand is out there. Like I just gotta find it. But for me to be able to do that, I got put more focus into the human side of it.
Yeah. Which I know developers love focusing on the human side, right? I'm being sarcastic. I know it's definitely not easy. What about so that's good to hear. That's something that's a great advantage to having a full-time gig, right? What about there's also, let's move to collecting. You have to invoice, you have to collect your funds, accounts receivable, things like that. Was that a challenge when you were freelancing as well? That even
Yes, yeah. The
tell us a
the,
little bit
the
about that.
question was often people always offer a fixed price, but what comes with that is there's really no such thing as warranties in softwares. When
Hmm.
I finish a project, I always try to do my best, and
Yeah.
I always put the QA as part of the hours. But what works today might not work for the week down the line. Definitely will work for tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then a good developer like me will always make sure that you're not programming something that you think it's going to work just for the time being.
Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about more if an issue comes up 2-3 months after. I was talking more about even getting paid for your current work. So let's say you're working a 40-hour week, 1, 2, maybe 3 different clients as a freelancer.
Yeah.
You run into times where you completed the work, you had to wait to get paid, or the client ended up, disappearing or didn't pay you at all. Did that ever happen in your freelance career?
There's one instance where there was a late payment, but
Oh, that's not bad.
yeah, yeah. Nobody ever like just take off on me, and I don't just pick on a project that I think you can just take off and go. I
Okay.
like so well back to what I was saying is that usually people come to me, they ask for a fixed price of something.
Okay.
And I say, well, if you give me a fixed price, I can do this, but you should probably think about what's going to happen after I spend those hours.
Hmm.
Because there's something could go wrong. And depending on the nature of the project, you might have integrations or many of some code dependencies that might break, and certain things
Yeah.
things happens.
Yeah.
So I try to stay away from a fixed price, and I go by the hours. And there's sometimes have to spend more time and they're figuring out the rate that works for both of us.
Okay. Is that also an alleviation now that you're working with us? Because with us, you don't
Absolutely, I don't have to worry about any of that.
that's it.
I know that we have the client's trust, and all I have to do is do my best job and work up to the company's reputations.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I've also I don't know, and I'm sure this is not going to apply to you, but I've I've heard some whispers in the freelance industry that sometimes hours are being elongated. So basically, you know what, if a freelancer can finish something this week, but if they don't have another gig, then they might be dragging their feet. So that's one advantage I think for our clients when they're dealing with us as opposed to a freelancer. Um, can you think of, and I'm gonna bring some up because I'm actually on the hunt. I'm trying to kind of compile advantages that a client can have working with Simply PHP as opposed to working as a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see any, well, you kind of already called them out. Can you see any other advantages that a client might have dealing with a company as opposed to dealing with a freelancer? I guess focus is one of them because you are paying, as a client, you're paying an hourly rate, you're paying an hourly fee for a developer, 8 hours a day type of arrangement. And if they're looking for their next gig or doing their own personal marketing, they're not working. So do you see any other advantages for a client on the client side?
For sure. There's always when you work. See, when now with Simply PHP, I know you guys won't overthrow a work on me. You know,
We
you
won't, are you sure? Because we like to do
no
that
no.
sometimes. Just kidding.
If what I was doing freelance, and actually this was not too long ago, maybe like last year. At one point, I had 2 clients on board, and I have more inquiries. So it's kind of back to the focus. When you work with agency, they deal that with you.
Yeah,
But when I'm on my own, like I have to open myself up and consider every opportunities. And I don't
yeah.
know whether the project that I'm on was how long that's going to go on for.
Understood. Understood.
There's contract I have to work out between me and the client. So again, it's kind of back to that. But when you work with Simply PHP, you have project manager and someone like you, Tony, that you understand whether this developer is has that capacity to focus on that the client that they're working for.
Yeah, great point. Great point. I think I could add too that when a client is working with a freelancer, let's say it's one or even 2 freelancers that are involved, I know for a fact, because I get these calls often, that a freelancer can disappear. Um, I mean, basically, if someone sees something shinier across the street, all of a
Yeah,
sudden they're
yeah.
not answering their phone anymore.
In fact, my very second client had a very bad experience with this was he was from the US, and he hired someone overseas, and the project he spent like well over like thousands of dollars on the Laravel project, and he never got it. It was complete, but it was terribly written, and of course the client didn't understand. He doesn't understand code much, and until someone like me come, I came in and look at his project, and I say, wow, this is
Yeah.
horribly written, and you could tell just by the performance of it.
And the freelancer was unavailable, so the freelancer sort of disappeared.
Yep,
That's probably why.
he found someone on Upwork, and that person had 98% of
Oh,
your
wow.
reputation. Yeah, so you can't even trust that.
Yeah, understood.
He learned his lesson, and I gained some insight as well.
See,
So you never know.
I think that's the risk, and I think you probably hit the nail on the head when it comes to advantage of working with a company like us compared to a freelancer. Because let's say that situation happened with us. I don't mean the bad code part, because that's almost impossible. We have intermediate to senior developers here, so obviously that freelancer must have been a junior or whatever. But they, at least a client has access to me, access to the project manager, access to my business partner. So it's not like they're lost, where the freelancer disappears. And often freelancers disappear because they can't finish the project, right? So that's more of a programming subject, but they have recourse, which is to pick up the phone and say, hey, where did Johnny go, Tony? You said that he was great, he disappeared. Well, guess what? As a company owner, we'll step in, we'll get someone else. Hey, no problem. The way we have our system set up, we have access to the passwords in a secure vault. So yeah, that's definitely a massive advantage
Mhm.
to going with a company such as ours as opposed to a freelancer.
Yeah, so I ended up having we chatted for well over a month, just getting to know each other first, and he
Okay.
found me on LinkedIn, and I was on Upwork, but I offered a better rate for him, and we just
Oh,
talked
nice.
and talked, and then yeah, it. There have been some time before I took over the project, and
Let me ask another question, Scott. As far as, when you're a freelancer, you're basically on your own, right? That's the definition of freelance. Do you see an advantage? I know what the answer is going to be, but there's definitely a palpable advantage to having access to 39 other developers in a company. For example, as Simply PHP, if you're stuck on something, you can reach out to one of your colleagues and help with the brainstorming. They can help with brainstorming.
yeah, that's definitely one of the other thing is in fact, that is one of the greatest advantage of working for agency. You can easily reach out to your coworkers,
Yeah,
and like one message away. I already know that they're great developer because they've been working there for so long.
yeah.
And
Have you tapped into that brain trust yet? Like the other developers at Simply PHP?
yeah, I follow the development channel very closely whenever there's a problem comes up, and I was very surprised to see the influx of help
Nice.
whenever
So
there.
explain the development channel. So that's a channel we have on Slack that's only for developers. That I call it the Geek Land, or the very smart people channel. But that's basically it, right? So we have a development channel that you can visit anytime and ask for help.
Yeah, and
Cool.
so whenever I have problem, I reach out to we even have a group, we have a pod, a nice group, right? And so those are the people that I see on a daily basis or the videos, so it's no problem for me just to, hey, I run into this issue. And
Yeah, that's one of I think it's one of our really great developments we implemented a couple of years ago, which is, let's say you have 39 or 40 developers. That's a lot of people. So it's broken into 4 or 5 person groups, that you've got your own Slack channel. And yeah, you guys, I think you chat every morning and just say what you're doing, if you've had any challenges, type of thing.
yeah,
And we try to make a mix. So we have like a very senior developer. We've got, maybe another senior, but, a little less than the pod leader, and then intermediates. So it's, I'm glad it's working. That's fantastic.
yeah. And we have lots of fun talking about, it's almost always technical conversations.
Yeah.
And everyone knows what each others are doing. And, sometimes if there is a difficult bugs, we share our accomplishment,
Yeah.
even though I spent 3 hours on a bug, but if I didn't put into that focus and effort into it, you left unchecked, and you would just go a
Nice.
cascade of problems.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it also, that's going to kind of let me springboard into the vacation, the benefits part. So that's another point. As a freelancer, I'm sure it would be difficult to take a real vacation. Whereas with your pods that you have, when you're on vacation, one of those developers has your back, type of thing. So they're already familiar with your project. They have access to the vault in case it's needed. So you know what? You can actually go on vacation, right? You can unplug.
Yeah. And I trust Leroy.
Oh, Leroy, yeah, Leroy's
And
awesome.
Oleg. And Vic.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you don't have to be on vacation and all of a sudden you got the laptop on the beach coding, you know?
So, and I'll tell you what it was like when I was on freelance. So
Yeah, please
yes,
do.
there's resource out there. We still go on Stack Overflow,
Yeah,
and we still go on some of these. You just Google the problem, and hopefully you run into a forum that might explain the problem you're run into. But there's nothing quite like being able to get someone's attentions and even have the ability just to chat and have a conversation over the problem, and that way, the help is much more quicker than you digging into a forum and in hope of finding a resolution.
yeah, especially if your colleagues have done what you're trying to do in the past. I think that's super important. It's true, forums and Google are a big part of the developers' lives, but that real life experience.
Yeah, have a couple more brains simultaneously focus on the same problem. It
Yeah,
just easily outweighs you doing this yourself.
fantastic. This is great, Scott. This is a great meeting so far. Kyler, I know we might have thrown freelancers under the bus a little bit. I'm asking very gently. Are there any comments or questions on the live? And again, I don't want to throw too much shade on freelancers, but I am here to display the advantages of not being a freelancer and being a part of the company. So obviously that's what we're talking about. But yeah, is there anything interesting happening out there?
There's a lot. Yeah, so I'm gonna go off a couple
Is everyone
questions.
being nice or are they being mean?
No, people are being nice, and people
Okay,
are.
cool.
There's a few freelancers on asking questions just
Oh,
about.
great.
But The first question is from Rico, who is our designer here at Simply PHP, and it's for Scott.
Yeah.
And his question for you, Scott, is how did you used to deal with deadlines, and did you have a few reliable devs to outsource to when you were a freelancer?
See, for me, part of that is always stay engaged with the client. Yes, I have go past the deadline. That's because it goes back to the beginning of the project when there was scope creeps. We never fully agree on the things that we need to accomplish in a given time. And but I have dealt with very smoothly. In fact, I've said, we need to put more resource whether that's time or budget, in to extend this project so that I will have more time to finish it. And that did happen because I was dealing with a few potential clients, so that did put my focus away. And I only have 8 to 10 hours a day uh, to work on something. So when that does happen, I do my best diligence to inform the client. And I don't tell them on the last day of the project and say, by the way, we need to extend that for another 40 hours. And I tell them way ahead of the time.
I think that's the key in all circumstances is proper communication. Like you just said, that last sentence you said, Scott, super important. You don't wait until the last moment to add another couple weeks to the project.
Yeah.
Daily, we owe that to people, right? Daily communication is important.
Another question, this is for Tony, kind of going off of what Scott said. As a company owner, did you expect freelancers to work during the weekends, or do you expect them to work like a 40-hour work week?
Great question. Great question. We really, really frown on anything past 8 hours a day. If a developer needs to work past 8 hours a day, there has to be a really, really good reason. Really, really good reason. If a developer is, let's say, making a big push production on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, of course, we expect that developer to be available. But when you are working more than 8 hours a day, there's so many negative parts of that. You're tired, you're overworked, you're stressed, you're not thinking properly. And if you are working more than 8 hours a day, then that's a management problem in my opinion. That means that the managers or the company owners promise something that the developers cannot deliver. Now, little caveat, if there's an emergency and it's needed, it's obviously welcome and it's obviously done, but it has to be on a very, very rare occasion. It's not something that's part of our culture. What is part of our culture is when you're working those 8 hours a day, you're working really well. Your managers are setting the right expectations to our clients. Our clients need to know that, yeah, you know what, our guys work 40 hours a week. We think this project or this module or whatever we're working on is going to be done at this time. And the time that the manager is quoting is coming from the developer, not coming from the boardroom. There's nothing worse than a boardroom estimate. An estimate that comes from a boardroom and gets thrown on a developer's desk, that's the time when developers end up working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And we call bullshit on that. We do not do it. We also, our annual salary for our developers is based on a 40-hour work week. The first hour that they work overtime, they're paid overtime rates. That's the way that we work. So we do frown on it, but in the rare, extremely rare occurrence that it happens, they are compensated accordingly.
Andrew says, great reply, Tony.
Andrew, all right, Andrew.
I'm going to switch because we have a couple questions for Tony and a couple of questions for Scott. So I'm going to just go back and forth a bit, okay? So we're going to go to Scott. Scott, how did you used to deal when you didn't have time to fit a new freelance job, but it was a very nice opportunity? How you used to deal with that?
It's hard, and I've never actually completely turn away unless it was they try to lowball me, and so in that case I don't feel very bad about just kindly says no, because I know that it was for the best of us to not work because their budget is low, and I'm super busy with my current project. And so thankfully, I can't think of a project that I really, really needed to love to work on, but I had to say no because I wasn't available. maybe there was one. It was a symphony project. It was actually they're looking just to fill in a project with several people, and I actually really like one of those projects is because then it's not just totally me alone on the project.
Mm.
You know, I also enjoy doing code reviews, look at other people's code because that's how you learn sometimes too. You learn from what others do, and you also notice the bad code as well, and you will know what not to do. And but I had to turn it away because you know I believe what's best for them because they already have things going. I usually pick up a project that you know that desperately needs help. I think that's the one thing that Simply PHP is very good at. They call it a rescue project, right? When
Yeah.
a project is really falling behind the schedule, and that they just need that expertise to bring it back to the swim lane.
Nice.
Did I go off topic? I don't know.
No, it's very good. A very good response. Don't. I'm just reading all the comments because we keep getting
Yeah,
more and more questions. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
next one for Mr. Tony. As a business owner, now that COVID is here, with nearly everyone working remotely, would you consider beginning to work with freelancers, or would you stick with hiring people full time internally?
Great question. So we only work with our full-time employees. We're in our 11th year of business. We tried subcontracting maybe in our third year, fourth year, fifth year of business, but it just, it never worked for us. So we ended up deciding that we are going to refuse projects if we don't have the staff for them. And people like Scott is a great example of what we are doing after what we've learned from the COVID days is that we can actually hire from coast to coast in Canada and not just in Montreal, which has opened up, you know, thousands upon thousands of resources. So yeah, we definitely we have a waiting list, but no, we will never subcontract. It's in our agreements that we don't you know, subcontract to exterior resources. And I know there's a lot of great people out there, but what we do is we have a very intensive interview process, and if someone's good, we're going to hire them. That's it. We hire them. They're a full-time employee. They have benefits. They have vacation. And Scott is a good example of someone that's extremely happy with us. So we couldn't be happier about remote resources like Scott that are from coast to coast in Canada.
Awesome, guys. That's all the questions that I see right now in the comments. People are tuning in saying thanks for the advice. Awesome responses. So I'm going to keep the questions coming as soon as they come up. Okay, guys?
Okay, I think we're pretty much close to wrapping up.
Yeah. I got one more thing.
Yeah, me too. You go first.
Being a freelance and that's talking about productivity. And as a developer, if you want to, other than focus, actually you need quite a few tools to support your development. You know, if like for example, I need PHP Storm license, and this thing costs me like $400 a year. And you know, if you this so that's $25 per month, and that is just the one of the essential tools that I need to code. And on top of that, I use Browser Stack, and that adds to your monthly cost. And there is also Lyricast license. It's a good resource for developing Laravel project, which I use quite often too to develop my skill. And I also pay for a few private virtual private servers that I use to demo my work, and they're hosted on the node. And yep, the cost piles up, but with Simply PHP, you guys have all the resource for me. I don't have to pay a dime.
That's fantastic. I didn't think about
I get paid to use the tool.
That's great. That's a great point, Scott. That's
Yeah.
really awesome.
I use the company's license for all these things that I used to pay for my own, because when you're on your own, you really just try to cut down the cost,
Yeah.
and that could means losing productivity. If you like, I used to use Eclipse as a development tool, but Eclipse isn't is nothing compared to PHP Storm if you want to develop something in PHP. And I'm
Nice.
glad I'm away from that. I only use PHP Storm, and I don't have to worry about paying a monthly bill to be able to use that.
Sweet. We also pay, Kyler, we also pay for some educational courses as well, depending on what they are to bring value to the developers' careers. We pay for that as well. So that's
Oh, is that right? I haven't dug into it.
yeah. You heard it live. Yeah, that's great. What I was gonna say, because I remember pre-COVID, the freelance thing was there was one thing that was difficult for us as a company to compete with when we're trying to hire, a resource in Montreal. It says, well, listen, I'm a freelancer, and that was I can work from anywhere, and that was impossible for us to compete with. But now we can compete with it. You can literally work from anywhere, right? As long as your productivity is there, you can be in your cabin, you can be a couple hours away from the gridlock of the big city, like you are. I believe you're a kayaker. I think you get in your kayak in the river, and the freshwater river, and it flows into the ocean, I believe. Is that what you
Yeah,
told me a
yeah,
while ago?
yeah. In summer, it's a great activity, but now it's lots of rains. 4 minute walk, and I'm down to the river, inlet. I miss the ocean, but yeah, 4 minute walk, I'm down there in my
That's,
kayak.
and that's what a lot of people, including, because don't forget, pre-COVID, we had, I don't know, maybe 40 staff members in our office on Peel Street in downtown Montreal. And people that were living on the outskirts were commuting every day, because that was another criteria. You had to come and work at the office every day. And now with our new education from COVID, I won't say advantage, because there's no advantages of COVID, but our new education and our new outlook is that the person living an hour away doesn't have to commute anymore. So it's really been a smooth, eye-opening experience when it comes to remote work. So now we can say that simply PHP developers can work from anywhere. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like I was really benefiting from having an office at home. I can get fresh air, just by opening up a window.
Yeah.
Company I had to go walk downstairs, maybe meet a few people, have a little small chat. That maybe
Yeah.
15 minutes before I actually go out and get fresh air. But this is undisturbed. My window's right there. Open it. I get a great view. Some rest for my eyes.
Yeah.
Take a couple fresh air.
Nice. Very cool. Kyler, is there anything else before we wrap up? So we'll let Scott get some lunch.
There's one more question if you guys want to tackle it.
Go for it.
So this is for both Scott and Tony, okay?
All right.
So Scott and Tony, seeing the developer and business side of things, how was it for you when you needed to adjust budget when things weren't well estimated or the project got a new scope?
Well, I'll tackle that first. What we do here is, when needed, because we deal a lot with staff augmentation as well. So staff augmentation is our sweet spot. We very rarely work with clients with small budget boardroom deadlines, and we all know what a boardroom deadline is, right? The deadline that's decided by non-technical people. When we do work with those smaller estimates, it's all about communication. So we have V, who is our senior account manager, would be checking in with our clients daily, weekly, bi-weekly, and making sure they're informed about where we are in the project. If there's any slowdowns or roadblocks we're hitting, she informs them of that. If the client adds, so we're talking about scope creep, if the client adds more functionality or more requirements, then that's addressed that day. It's not something that's, and again, this is 11 years of experience talking for the management of the company. So it's not something that's swept under the carpet and then we give them bad news 2, 3 months down the line. It's something that's done communicating on a daily or weekly basis. And that's how we deal with it. We deal with it by that magic word, which is communication. I hope that answers.
And yeah, for me, always act in the best interest of client. And the scope is the things that we define very in the beginning of the project. And there's two different types of scopes. You know, if there's that user requirement, anybody can understand it. You know, make this button that does this and that does that. But however, underneath that, there is technical requirement, which if you don't understand PHP, you know, it'll be a little more difficult to explain. But when we talk about technical scope, we're talking about list of a development task that we need to do to make sure that feature works 100% and that it can continue to work less bug free. So we're getting down to the implementation, and if that does take more time, it's almost always in the best interest of a client, because we want to code it well so that you don't have to come back in a few months saying all of a sudden why this thing broke. Oh, because you know we didn't have enough time to care about this and that. And sometimes we bring it up too. You know, we weigh the pros and cons of we do explain that to the technical requirement down to choices, so they can make choices. You know, so we can do this, but if you don't want to do this, and then here's the risk. But we always put that up front in front of the client.
Nice. That's great. Kyler, anything else before we?
That's all the questions that I can tell. So I think people are pretty happy. We had about 20 or so people logged on at once. Thank you all for
Nice.
tuning in and the questions. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you, Scott. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to share some of your experience, and I'm super happy that that you're with us. And we're going to be doing another live broadcast next Wednesday, same time at noon. I believe it's going to be with Jason, right, Kyler?
Yeah, he confirmed with me today.
Oh, he's good. All right, so
He's
that
good.
might be a wild one. That might be a little wilder, and that's going to be, the subject is going to be, you know, the state of Magento now, and what's going on with the latest releases of Magento, and what type of bugs are have been happening, and you know, just the landscape of what's going on with Magento these days. So that's going to be fantastic.
Awesome, guys. Well, if that's everything, Scott, if you have anything final words to say it now.
Work with Simply PHP, because we're very difficult. Actually, next time if we could do a very even Laravel specific, you know, framework, any of the development specific podcast, I would love to be on. You know,
All right.
Well, everyone that just heard Scott, comment if you want to see that. Comment what you want to see from us. We are here to provide value for you guys. So
yeah, we know we're the expertise. So the best thing to do is talk about it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. This is just going to evolve from here. This is the second one we've done in this type of format. We did one yesterday, so I love it personally. I think it's great. I love that we can bring on you know, employees and experts in certain fields to just talk. So that's great.
And of course, the most important thing is I enjoy my job. I love it, and I look forward to awesome development.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you both. Have a great day, everyone. We'll let you have a lunch now. All right. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye.